I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll just have a moment of silence for Sandy Hook. Thank you. Second item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. There are no changes. They have motion to approve the agenda as submitted. I'll make that motion. Lindsay, and seconded by John. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, we actually have, is it just Amanda that's online? And Mariah. And Mariah are both participating online. Item number 3 is presentations and recognitions. We're going to start with Samantha with the MTA share.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zachary Ryer. I'm here to talk about my experience at MTA. At first, I didn't know what to expect from MTA, but so far it's proven to be a great program. MTA offers classes for students to get work done, whether it's for MTA or college, and the teachers are always there to support you when needed. MTA provides students with on-the-job work sites, experience it in varieties of workplaces such as Price Chopper, YMCA, and Bob's. Some students can't drive, and even if they can, we still might need to know how to use public transportation one day to get around places, which is good because MTA teaches students how to use public transportation. Once a week, a group of students go on outings, which is an activity the students planned for. For example, I got to choose whether to eat at Mondo's, watch a movie, or take an hike for an outing. Students are taught how to have good social skills as well. Each day, students are able to speak to each other and have conversations, which helps with our social skills and vocabulary skills. At times, MTA holds a dance where all the students get to come together and party. We all listen to a variety of music, from rap to rock to country to pop. Either way, it was fun. Students are able to let teachers know if they want change in the schedule or any other feedback by submitting a weekend review sheet. A weekend review sheet is a form you fill out on the classroom that will ask you how your week went, what you want to change, and if you have any problems. Students are able to keep healthy since they are allowed to go to the gym, Club 24 in Middletown, which is available some days during the school week. The exercise is able to help get students from being couch potatoes, bodybuilders, thanks to MTA. Unlike preschool, middle school, or even high school, students are offered more freedom during the school day. Students aren't needed to be supervised everywhere they go. If they have an outing and need to go somewhere within walking distance, then the teachers will allow the students to walk there themselves, as they are old enough and entrusted to go there on their own. Overall, I'm thankful to MTA for giving me not only new experiences, but also expanding my horizons around new things. Thank you all so much for listening.
Thank you.
And so Zach knows you might have questions, and I told him you guys could ask anything that you wanted about his experience with the account.
How was Mondo if you had?
I want to know which one you picked.
If I had to choose something to get at Mondo's for lunch, I'd usually get their 2 giant slices of pizza.
How long ago did you graduate?
I graduated in 2022, basically last school year, so I'd say only a few months ago.
Wow. Wow. How does it feel to be free?
Honestly, it feels pretty good.
Very good.
I will miss this school though.
Oh, of course, of course. So is there anything special that you're doing now that you're graduating?
Right now, I'm applying to Middlesex Community College.
Awesome.
Excellent. Good luck with that.
Thanks, Dr.
We had a couple of us that had come up to MTA to see what it was like, and Mrs. Wimler showed us the whole thing, and I'm going to invite any other board members who have not had an opportunity to visit MTA.
Yes, you are all welcome anytime. Just send an email to myself. I would love to have any or all of you come and check out the program, see where, the students 18 to 22 come and sort of what we have in store for them for those transition years when they qualify for that program. So absolutely, just reach out if you're interested. We would love to have you.
It's very well worth it, very well worth it. As you
It
can
was a lot
see.
of fun. We walked in and there was some cooking classes going on and had
Oh,
some
yeah.
great conversations and so
Definitely.
you definitely plan on visiting, right?
Yes, yes,
We have tours often, right?
yes. We're a tourist school.
Well, thank you for
Thank you
coming. We
very
appreciate it.
much. Zach, thank you. It was a clap. And congratulations on your graduation and your buck at Middlesex. We have our high school reporters, Hayden, Catherine, and Christine.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Christine is unable to join us tonight, so I'll be reporting a few student events happening lately at CRHS. The Coggins Honduras class has planned fundraisers such as duct tape or teacher to the wall, a dodgeball tournament, and a talent show to come in the new year. These fundraisers help purchase medical supplies for people in Honduras. The class has also been able to interact live with doctors and patients in Honduras through these virtual sessions. The annual Powder Puff game was held on November 22nd with a final tie between the junior and senior girls. Prior to this game, all learners gathered in the gym for a pep rally, giving our underclassmen a chance to play tug of war and our upperclassmen a rematch for their boys volleyball game. This past Monday, Coggins was visited by 2 therapy dogs, which was a much loved opportunity by students and staff at DMYFS and Miss Schilling hope to continue each month of the year. Community Roundup was also a great success. Our community collected over 8,000 pounds of food and $1,800 in cash and gift cards. Edge is currently collecting hats and gloves, so if you have any donations, we'd love for you to come to the holiday concert to hear some beautiful winter music and donate to the community. Now on to the sports. While the fall 2002 sports season has come to the end, the winter sports season is already underway. CRHS student athletes are involved in boys and girls indoor track, boys and girls basketball, co-op swimming with Lyman Hall, competitive cheer, girls and boys co-op ice hockey, and also new to this year is a cooperation with North Brantford High School for a fencing program. In the past couple of days, the girls basketball team has had their first scrimmage, and indoor track had a developmental meet at Hill House High School in New Haven to prepare for the upcoming season. Tomorrow night, the first boys basketball game will be held home against Westbrook with a pep band and friends and family to cheer them on. To briefly recap the impressive accomplishments of our fall season athletes, here's how Coggins teams performed at the state championships. Girls soccer made it to the second round of states. Girls cross country made it to 7th place class double S. Boys cross country 10th place class S, and volleyball the semifinals round of states. Lastly, our fall sports banquet a couple of weeks back honored student athletes for their hard work and teamwork throughout the fall season. Coaches and athletes from girls and boys soccer, football, girls volleyball, and girls and boys cross country voted on and announced coaches awards and MVP awards for the season. Students were also received varsity letters, and parents and families were invited to attend team ceremonies and a wrap up of the season in the auditorium. Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
before you go, I am intrigued about this duct taping. Do you take pictures?
I'm sure there's somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would hope that you could at least one of these times bring them and show us a few of the pictures. That's really.
I had lots of questions as well, Lucy. And
Yeah, I'm sure. And the powder puff they tied.
Yeah.
Last year, my granddaughter was a senior, and the seniors won.
Yeah, they
last
won
year.
a lot.
Yeah,
So it's
they
tied.
tied.
It's funny game, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun game.
Yeah.
Is it real duct tape or can we get?
Yeah.
In the broadcast industry, they use gaffer tape. It's sticks, but you can.
Yeah.
it's like electrical tape mostly. The teachers are volunteer to do this, wear long sleeves, and they know they're getting done. And students pay for a strip. And then they know which teachers are up there and they can put the strip on whomever they want. They stand on a bench of some sort and tape them, and then they remove the bench and hope that a teacher stays.
I'm not sure if that's better or the dunk tank.
Oh,
I
boy.
mean,
I think some volunteer. I'm sorry, no.
Definitely have to see pictures on this.
All right, I'll find.
Thank you.
So to recap some of the things that happened in the music world. And on Saturday the 3rd in Durham and Sunday the 4th in Middlefield, many bands learners participated in the tree lighting ceremonies. This was a wonderful way to start off the holiday season for both communities. And the music department also conducted their annual poinsettia and wreath fundraiser, which allows learners to offset their biannual music trip costs through the proceeds that are made. The flowers and wreaths are provided by a local greenhouse, Country Flower Farms, which is where I work actually, so it's a little interesting fact. And then some upcoming events, the winter performance for band and chorus will feature 3 songs from chamber singers, 3 songs from concert choir, and 5 songs from concert band. The performance is going to be next week on the 21st, starting at 7:30 p.m. And then after winter break on the 12th of January, a cappella, show choir, and jazz band will be performing in their annual concert at 7 p.m. And then on the following 2 days, January 13th and 14th, several learners will travel to Millennium High School to participate in the CMEA Southern Regional Festival. This will include an afternoon rehearsal on the 13th and a morning rehearsal and an afternoon performance on the 14th. And that's pretty much everything.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item is public comment. At the beginning of the meeting, the public comment is referred to items on the agenda. I just want to remind those people who perhaps are online that if you have a copy of the agenda and you go to the last page, those who are online you already know. For those who aren't, there's an awesome box there that tells you exactly how to access, these instructions on how to access live streaming, phone calling, and through Zoom. Nice, it was done very nicely by Meg, our administrative assistant. So I like, hats off to Meg. So we'll start with the in-person. Is there anyone here who would like to comment?
Hi.
Hello.
My name is Julia Talbot Slagle. I'm a senior at Coggins. And I wanted to comment on the communication section, which Miss Roy isn't here, but I emailed her over a month ago about student representatives on the Board of Ed. And then I went to the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education conference, which Miss Roy also attended. And there were a lot of other student representatives there, and I discovered that a majority of the districts within this state have student representatives on their Board of Ed. And it was really interesting to see the way that it, involves students in what was happening within the school district, not just their school, and the way that it helped them to strengthen their, voice within the district and their feeling that they have a voice within the district. And I also think it would especially be helpful for us because we tend to, we have our CRHS reporters who are great, but we also don't really have anybody who comes in and discusses the school climate and specifically the negative parts of that. And having a student rep would mean that there's somebody there who is experiencing everything, not just the good, and feels comfortable sharing that and lets the board have a full perspective of what's going on in the climate and in the schools. So that's what I was thinking. I really hope you guys will strongly consider that and will push for it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Grace Harkins. I also go to Coggins. I'm a junior, and Julia recently let me know that she wanted to make and bring this to your attention. And I just want to show my support as a fellow student at the school. I think that having a student representative or maybe a few would definitely help bridge our communication. It would be a necessary, almost just like a like a toll. So you guys make the necessary decisions, but we could provide input. That way we could just work together and we would make our district even more collaborative than it already is. So I think this is a great idea. I just wanted to show my support. Thank you. Hi, piggybacking off of what Grace and Julia said. So I'm Dia Patel. I'm also a junior at Coggin, and I also wanted to advocate and show my support for what Julia said about having student representatives on the Board of Ed. Because if we really go back to the root and the cause of the Board of Ed, it's to make student life a better place and to make the district and its education better, I guess, for the community. And I think in order to do that, you really need to have a connection with the students. And what better way to have a connection with students than to have representatives on the board. I think it would be a great idea just to get a better sense of what the actual day-to-day life is like, not just at Coggin, but at other schools as well, because we have siblings, like we can tell you how they feel, how students and our peers, how they feel. And, you know, you can just really take our input and kind of apply it to whatever decisions you guys make on the Board of Education. And I just really think that that would be a great way to kind of bridge the divide between both the Board of Education and the students in the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Well, hearing none, we'll go online. Is there anyone who's online that would like to speak?
No, their hand. If you are online and wish to speak, you could raise your hand. That would.
Well, if we move on and somebody does, we'll go back. Okay, so
We can go
sometimes
back
there's
at
a
the
little
end.
bit of a delay. Yeah,
There shouldn't be a delay on
definitely
this
at the
one.
end. Okay, item number 5, approval of minutes. I have a few corrections on the minutes. This is the minutes of November 9th, Board of Ed meeting.
I have one as well, but it might be the one.
Might be
I
the
think
same
it's
one.
you-
Okay, on page 1, under approval of agenda, it says the minutes say Mrs. Buffella asked to item. It should say added to item. 10B, building committee report.
Asked to add.
Asked should be changed to added. I'm sorry, added to item. Yes, added, ADDED. On page 3, the paragraph just before the bottom, it starts, Mr. Moore felt these outcome measurements came. The very last sentence, Mrs. Petrella looks at the outcome measures as end outcomes, but more specific competency outcomes by grade level, and it should continue to say need to be developed. So that should be added on page 3. And on page 4, at the top of the page, the first sentence, Dr. Shook stated that they are intending to build a competency-based framework in and teach should say each of the domain areas. Pardon?
Remove the T.
Yeah, remove the T. I'm gonna ask Mariah this question. Mariah, do you have any corrections for the agenda? I mean, the minutes?
Not that I was able to. I'm at work right now, actually, so I'm listening in and trying to look at the same time. But not that was there something specific or a specific part you wanted me to
It's on
review?
page 4, and it starts, you're talking, and it's probably the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4th line down. It started that you were talking about reimagining education in Denver and what it was like. It says here, she was fearful that the district would meet the educators' needs to be able to do that, which is have a 30-person classroom with 4 teachers. I think you meant to say that the district would not meet the educators' needs to be able to do that.
That's correct. I had some reservations that we might not be able to provide that kind of same support at the setting in which I visited.
So we'll make the correction in that sentence if that's okay.
Right. So
Yes, that's fine. That's perfect. Thank you. I was just able to pull it up. Thank you.
So it should read, she was fearful that, this is the second paragraph on page 4. It's about the middle of it. She was fearful that the district would, and the word not to be added, meet the educators' needs to be able to do that.
Yes, thank you, Lucy.
Okay, cool. That's all that I have. Does anyone else have anything? Would you raise more?
No, all the ones you have is one side.
Okay. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 9th, 2022 Board of Ed meeting as amended? So moved by Jamie and Lindsay. All in favor? Okay, I think we're gonna have to go to a roll call because we have two people online. So basically just say your name and say yes or no. Okay, so I'll start. Lucy Petrella, yes. Yeah.
Lindsay Dahlheimer, yes.
Jason Stone, yes. Bob Moore, yes.
More Caramello, yes.
Linda Darcy, yes.
John Manelli, yes. Jamie Rohrback, yes.
Mariah?
Mariah Roy, yes. Amanda Betty, yes.
Okay. All right, so the motion passes. We can go to item number 6, superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you. People will be excited or disappointed, but I don't have a whole lot to share this evening. I do have a couple comments that I'd like to reserve when we get under new business for a couple of items, if that's okay. But two things that I'll mention briefly here. One is that as we head into budget season, I think it's important for the board to be aware that we are taking a hard look at all parts of the budget, and that does involve looking at staffing and class sizes at all levels, as we've done in years past. But I think we've paid more particular attention at the elementary level because it's kind of simpler and it's more complicated at middle school and high school. But as we get into our board retreat and things like that, Kim and I will be sharing information and be interested to see how you all feel about those things going into budget season. And the second thing is probably about a month ago, we had a couple of folks in the community reach out to us with some concerns about social media and specifically employees' use of social media. And so we, as a leadership team, we've looked at that, and we feel like there are some major disconnects between written policy and specifically the regulations and actual and maybe even intended practice going back a number of years. And so if it's okay with the board, we'd like to refer that policy and regulation to the policy committee and have that conversation in January, similar to the conversation we had in the fall with policy committee over cell phone use and things like that. We don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction to something, but we do feel like there are some topics there, and we need to give some clear direction to our employees who at this point, I think, feel like they're behaving as they've been directed historically, but now realizing that it may not align with what the reg currently states. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item number 7, staff report, Director of Finance, Tim?
Yes, starting off the meeting with the general fund is 37% expended this far into the year, and revenue has been 40% received. MTA is holding at 22 expended and 22% revenue received. Just a few bit of updates, some housekeeping stuff. The remote grievance hearing that was rescheduled will now be in February. Information on so I filed a grant with the state of Connecticut for an HVAC system. So I just wanted you to know that went through. We haven't been awarded yet, but that was submitted December 1st, and hopefully we'll receive some funding for that for the Memorial Mechanicals. With that, if we should get those fundings, then whatever we have in the bonding will then return back to the fund. So we would be lucky to have that. Security grants. Governor recently announced that there'll be another round of security grants. He hopes. No details yet on what that would be, but I'm always already thinking of ways to capitalize on that. But it is a matching grant, so we do have a local share, roughly around 60%. But we need some system upgrades to our PA system, as well as some cameras that are end of life. So that would probably be something we would look at. Things that we're going to need to purchase anyways. Update on the budget. All administrators have submitted their budget. It was due the 5th of December. And so I've taken a preliminary look at it. I've got meetings scheduled with all the administrators next week to go over line by line details. And then from there, we'll move on to, discussing with Doug and I and the leadership team and plans of preparation for the February 8th presentation. That's all I have for right now. I have some things a little bit later on under committee reports, but that's all I have for here. Oh, I did want to say one thing, sorry. We did begin charging for lunch on December 9th. We did run out of the funds and December 9th was the first day we started charging.
Have we gotten any report on how it went this week?
I think there was a little bit of there was some confusion but I think only on two occasions because the general statement was we're going to be charging for lunch. So some students that were on the program got a little nervous and thought, oh, wait a minute, but we quickly took care of those. And so it's been going fine.
I have a question because I recently saw in the newspaper that there's a district that they had a meeting yesterday and they saw that the superintendent reported to the board that they're going to be over $1 million over budget. And so the 37% expended is good data, but are we on track? Is that going to happen?
Oh, yes. So because you're fairly new to the process. So no, we keep an eye on it. And usually somewhere in the March area, I feel that people should have purchased their supplies and done.
Yep.
And so then at that point, I can kind of slow things down and just, spot check. So yeah, we're doing okay.
Thanks.
And with now that we are charging, are we going to be offering more, especially at the high school level? Will there be more for the kids? I know we got away with probably bare minimum because we weren't charging for so long, but I'm just like, or better quality.
Okay,
Are we
so
switching at all?
quality could be, amount, we can't, we're.
Not
we're held
amount,
to
but
those
just more
nutrition guidelines.
offering, more offering,
Some more
like
a
a
la
salad
carte.
bar, do we like, something to
Yeah.
me that would
That's smart.
for the high school level. Yeah, something healthy, healthy and more choices. Okay.
I'll sort that.
Yeah,
Can
like
we
to
see
see some
audit?
comparison of, are more people now taking advantage of brown
Yeah.
bagging it? I mean,
Right.
it'd be interesting to see.
Just started this week.
Right, I think if
It's
it's
not a
better
huge revenue
quality.
source, but it'd be good if we can at least
Because we
make it true.
price,
Yes.
price went up.
Yeah, I was that strong for the PTA luncheon and I had asked them real quick and she said it did seem like Les had taken, school lunch this, at least that one of those days. The interesting thing that I'd like us to look at is it seems like certain choices are running out before the kids have a chance to get that. And that just seemed like an overall concern.
Okay.
Kim, is the audit wrapping up?
Oh, yes, the audit fieldwork has been done and all that. I actually did receive the final copies of the audit, the hard copy, that was emailed. The hard copies are in the mail now. So we thought that maybe in January, part of the agenda would be the auditors. Thank you for asking that, Bob.
Are we gonna present the audit through? What committee are we gonna process through the audit through? Because usually that's through ERC.
It's been ERC.
Didn't he come last year to the record to the board?
I think that's better personally.
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
everybody-
that's what I was asking.
We had a
I would
presentation.
I'd like it to come back to the full board.
Yep. Okay. Digital reporting form.
It's me this time. Several months back, I know we talked about, the board was asking for us to look into some digital report forms. Ken had done that and vetted a few different systems. Some of them were costly. None of them really checked off the boxes that we were looking for. Simultaneously, Julia Talbert-Slagle had taken the initiative to work on a Google report form so that students can report incidences of bullying or other concerns. Her report form was excellent, and we met, we talked about it, and we looked at it with upper administration. This was for Strong and Cog and Chog. Edited it, and we're looking to pilot it, starting in January.
Awesome. Awesome. Are we
So,
able to
thanks,
get,
Thank you.
get a copy of that or a preview of that for the board?
Sure, would you like to?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'd love to.
I'll share it with you. Thank you.
Mhm. And I believe in January, we're going to get a report from the climate survey that was done.
Yes,
From you?
yep.
Okay, great.
Has that
January
finished
might
up at
be a
every
li-
school? Are they all finished?
Yes, they're all in. There might be some students who were absent during the reporting period, so we'll try to catch up with those learners. But they're all in. I just started looking at the data end of last week, beginning of this week, and I will share that out with all of you at the climate report. It'll be a long climate report for January. I will share all those details with all of you.
Did you ask to, is it just the high school or was it Strong also?
No, for the client, the school survey was K through 12.
It was K.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to tally our K to K2.
Yeah, I remember you
forms.
sharing that.
Yeah. Are the teachers sitting down one-on-one with the kids for kindergarten?
No, they're doing it in their small group classrooms to help them. They're reading them and letting them circle smiley faces or.
I did like.
Well, I was just thinking of all the kids in those kindergarten classes. I was like, "Are they going through one-on-one?"
Yeah, no.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Item number 8, new business. Part A is vote to accept the teacher's contract. There were, let's see, John and myself and Lindsay and Bob and Amanda were representing the board, and we had 2 Board of Finance representatives, one from each community during the teacher contract negotiations. And we feel it went very well. And I believe today the teachers have actually voted to ratify the contract. So it is now our turn as a board to ratify the contract. You received from Meg just a basic outline of what some of the changes were.
We got the red line version as well.
And we also got the red line version. I believe that there was a second one that came out because there were some changes that had not been made to the other copies. So we have a bunch of copies. So what we would need at this point is we need a vote from the board. I will put the motion out or have a second, and then we can have a discussion. I'd like a motion to move that the Regional School District 13 Board of Ed approve the tentative agreement for a successor collective bargaining agreement with the Regional School District 13 Education Association and authorize the board chair to sign such collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the board.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Any questions? I didn't know.
Do you have any questions
thank you
or
to the people who
discussion?
did it.
Yeah, could I say something?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, now's the time.
Were you gonna say something?
Can we have discussion first?
Sure.
Mariah or Amanda, do you guys have any questions? We can come back. I feel like I'm talking.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just want to
No.
thank people who served on that because it is both thankless and time consuming. So thank you for doing this. So I don't have to.
It's a very interesting process. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was nice to have both Durham and Middlefield's Board of Finance reps here as passive observers. You know, they weren't part of discussions, but they were here actively listening every single night that we sat here. And it was really good for them. Discussion wise, are there any questions that anyone has based on what we received?
Okay, very nice.
Well, I'm just gonna repeat what several others have said, and I'm glad Craig is here. I just want to thank everyone who was involved in the process, both on the kind of the board side of this and also on the union side of this. this was my first time to go through something like this, and it was grueling, I would say is the best adjective I can think to describe it, in terms of the level of detail, and also just the time and the intensity of the conversations that took place with the groups combined and also separately. So again, I want to thank the board members that gave up time for that, because it was a significant thing, as well as the teachers who did that. And I want to give a special shout out to Kim and to Kevin, and also to Pete Marr, the representative for the board, and Brendan. What's Brendan's last name? Murphy. Yeah, I think those representatives, yes, they are compensated for doing that, and as well they should be. But I think they did a very good job of taking what the groups had brought together and getting us from meeting to meeting. And the reason I mentioned Kim and Kevin is we had to spend significant time with Pete in between meetings, kind of getting our side kind of ready for the next one. I'm sure Craig had to do the same thing on his side. So just again, thank you to everyone. And I think this is a great agreement. People might disagree with parts of it, but I think the part that bothered me, and I guess this is just the nature of the beast, so to speak, is that it's almost set up to feel kind of adversarial, but we're all one team. And so I'm glad to, hopefully if this vote goes through, to have this milestone behind us. And it was unanimous on the part of the union. So I think that speaks volumes as well. So thank you.
I also want to thank Doug for keeping me informed on your last marathon night. I was on my way to Quebec, and I was only getting texts where we were. So it was great. And I'm sorry I missed the last fun night. But all the fun. But I've been at many, of those fun nights. So.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we're going to do a roll call vote. And I will start. Lucy Petrella, the vote to approve the tentative agreement. Yes.
Lindsay Dahlhammer, yes.
Jason Stone, yes. Bob Moore, yes.
More Carmenella, yeah.
Linda Darcy, yes.
John Minoan, yes. Jamie Rohrbach, yes.
Mariah Roy, yes. Amanda Betty, yes.
Okay, passed unanimously. Thank you. Item B, it's a vote to accept the 2023 Board of Ed and committee meeting schedule. Meg sent out a list to us with the different meeting schedules starting in January, because remember, we'd only gone up to December. The only committees that are on there with regard to specific meeting dates are the building committee, the finance committee, and the policy committee. A few days ago, I sent everyone out because we really had kind of not decided exactly how we were going to restructure or structure our committees. So I sent out my recommendations. First of all, the first part of it actually lists those committees that I would consider to be standing committees. That's why we have dates going forward. The building committee has been meeting every month on the first Wednesday of each month. The finance committee we just had a meeting before this one, is meeting on the second Wednesday. The policy committee will be meeting on the third Wednesday, which is kind of nice. We keep them all on Wednesdays. In the past, I remember we had Tuesdays, Thursdays, Wednesdays, all over the place. I listed the pension committee. It is not a board committee, but it is a committee that we do have a couple of members on. And utilization, we had decided to keep that as a full board committee as opposed to a separate committee. This way, whatever discussion we have, we all do it together. If you're okay with that part of it, because that's what's been happening anyway, we can go ahead and say, yes, I will go back and look at some of the protocols that go with these and make sure that they say what we're actually doing with these committees. And then Meg will be sending out a list because we actually have specific members of each. It hasn't been updated because there've been changes and I weren't sure what we were gonna be doing with it. So you'll be getting a copy of exactly who's on the building committee and what their position is. Same thing with finance, policy, and even the pension and committees. So that's where we are now. If that's okay with the board members, maybe I'll just stop right now and I'll see if there's any discussion just on that part of what I have sent out.
And I had one thing to that too as well. When we drafted this, we did not schedule finance beyond March. Because when that first came about, it was like, let's schedule it through the budget season and on this calendar, you know, in early April. We do our district meeting and then it all proceeds to referendum. So we can add more of those. Either now
That makes
or
sense.
later in the year. The other thing that you'll see that is I think similar to what we did this year, but we've kind of got it on the front end is there's still the same number of meetings in January and February and March. But instead of doing more kind of regular meetings with budget updates, we've kind of separated out the regular meeting and then the dedicated budget meeting / work session, based on the feedback we got from a lot of you last year, that it's nice during budget to sometimes just be able to come in here and roll up your sleeves and do just budget. Again, that's subject to board approval, but that's how Kim and I are recommending that we do that this season. So again, it may look like just as busy because we haven't taken anything out. So it still resembles the frequency of meeting during budget season, but it does do that. And the opposite is not true. It doesn't preclude us from talking about budget at a regular meeting. It just kind of sets it up that, you know, we're going to try to do non-budget items specifically at the regular meeting and do most of budget if we can at the regular. And probably the exception to that is February 8th. We will do the budget proposal at the regular meeting. But again, that's not designed to be a drawn out discussion at that point. That's just us sharing with you and the public what it is we propose and then teeing up that first work session for that. You'll also see here, because when we talked to Lucy and Lindsay, they felt like we should keep that in there, as do we. A retreat in January. It's on a Saturday. And I know we just did a Saturday recently, but that seemed to be productive last year when we did that. And so if that still works, this is important because January is next month. So we are approving the annual calendar, but if those January dates are something to, I think, keep in mind, because don't we have building committee like on the 4th or something?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like
Starting
great.
like-
Yeah, and they're used to meeting on that first Wednesday. That's what we've been doing this fall, but we just wanted to make this official so that even those folks know that that's still going to be their schedule if the board approves that.
I just wanted to add with regard to the board retreat, it says budget discussion, but it's also going to be a meeting where we do the mid-year evaluations of the superintendent, which we always do, and then hopefully do our board goals at that time, or at least get a good start on them. And I really like the way this is set up at this point with the committees that we have standing. You know, Bob and I have both been on the board for a while, and we've had meetings at different days during the week. This is a nice, consistent. Many of them happen just before the board meeting, which is not, you're already here. Okay, we're here a little bit longer. But we have some awesome refreshments. We could take a break if we have to, but at least we're here, we're out one night, and then we can say, okay, we're done, you know, until the next week when there's another committee meeting if we want to come. So,
Let's see, I have a couple of questions. One is neither the building committee or the finance committee are actual board committees. They're committees that are assigned for a specific purpose.
Mhm.
Building
That's
and
true.
finance is an advisory committee. So they're not really committees set up by policy. We have a policy that sets up student achievement, ERC, HR, and the other one. So those have been kind of put aside in this process. And also concerned about having a regular finance committee, since it's advisory and you set the agenda, have it meet each month where there may or may not be an issue, may or not be. And also the more they meet, the more that committee may decide that it has authority over budget or something like that. And you have to be careful with that, since that's not its role. And so I just concerned a little bit about making it a regular standing committee date and meeting. It should go through the budget process, during that time, but after that, it's probably doesn't meet again until the fall.
Right, well, that's
So,
why I think they'd set the meetings up at least till March.
yeah, I just,
Yeah.
just raising concern over that, because it's not a board member function, and it doesn't have the authority that, you also drop the ERC, which is this policy has a standing committee, and that has in the past been the board's finance committee. It has pre-looked at the audit, it's pre-looked at the budget, it's pre-looked at. And again, over time, we made that full board functions rather than the finance committee. But it does have an investment function and a few other things that it does do that have been in the past not really paid attention to by the full board. So if we're not going to have those committees, we need to affect the policy that says we have them.
Right. Right, yeah, if you look at the second page on what I sent out, which I sent it out early, so we would have an opportunity to think about it and talk about it, and we're starting to talk about it now. I would like to have a more detailed discussion in January about these, and ERC is on there, and you notice I put a question mark. I'm not exactly sure what we're gonna do with ERC. It's not my decision, it's the board's decision. The same thing with the Achievement Committee. With HR, I put my recommendations out here, and I can certainly explain why. And also the restructuring of the Wellbeing Committee. And also I was going to recommend a new committee for about a year, a communications committee, so we can kind of pull some of that together. But that's why I sent it out. I'm going to need your input. It's our decision, it's not mine. But right now, we're looking at and it's interesting, the building committee and the finance committee are not technically part of the board, but yet the board approves the members for there, and then with finance sets up the committee. So they're not really part of the board, but yet we're still part of it anyway. So they're kind of like
Well, they
a little
provide
bit of both.
information to
Yeah,
us.
they're a little bit of both. So they sort of fall in the category when you're not thinking that it's a committee that.
Yeah, I
you
think
need to
he just
decide.
means based on policy, which does make sense. I think in the past,
But we
if
have to do
if I'm not mistaken, finance has always been scheduled. I believe there were a lot of years where finance was canceled, many months were canceled, right, when it wasn't needed.
I don't think it had a set schedule. No, it was just created and scheduled when needed. Yeah, I don't think it had a set schedule as far as.
Normally it
Not
may-
finance, ERC did.
Yeah, normally it may, like in November and then probably February.
I can take a look at it, but I think there was at least 2 years where it was regularly canceled. But again, I can bring that up when we do have that discussion.
At this point in time, having a specific day and dates, at least the members, instead of, at the last minute sending out a date and half of the people can't make it, that's what was happening before. They have a specific date. They know when there may or may not be a meeting. It can always be canceled. And setting it up until March, which is about the end of the budget discussion. We may go into April. But then after that, yes, there will be a, probably a stopping of that committee. I'm not sure there'd be any reason for them to continue at that point, but then to pick up again sometime in the fall to start looking at the next year's budget. But I think having a consistent meeting date, just like with building committee, a consistent meeting date, you don't have to worry about reaching people and who's available and who isn't available, because that's become an issue in the past. So.
Yeah, I am corrected. The difference, it wasn't canceled. It was not, there wasn't a meeting called for a very long time. And there was like a 6-month period.
Right. I mean, this is what we've been doing since September. It's been pretty much set up Actually, Finance Committee didn't meet first until November, by the time we got all the people together and got it organized. Building Committee's been up and running for several months now, well needed at this point in time. So, I'm not sure if we actually need a motion to approve the committees that we've got going at least full time, or just say, yes, we're okay, if we have any objections. And then we have dates here that we would then approve as well, along with the board meetings. As presented, knowing that at any point in time, these meetings can be canceled if there's no agenda or no reason to be meeting. We also do need to, and I agree with Bob, we have to go into the policies as we go forward to make adjustments on what is in the policies about committees and what isn't. We not only have the committees that we call standing committees, we also have a policy about community members, and that's going to come up in the second half of the discussion. Are we going to have community members? How are they going to be in? Also is going to be discussion about having student reps on the Board of Ed. And, you know, all of that's going to be coming in January, at least to get started and to see what we're going to be doing going forward. But we do have to go back and make some corrections along the way.
We want to look at putting in a special meeting for the first couple weeks in January to have that discussion? Or do we want to roll that in with the board retreat?
I think we can do it at our Board of Ed meeting. Unless we're gonna have a lot of discussion, I mean. I know when we get on a roll, we get on a roll, and we do have, I mean, everyone has their opinions, which is great, you all need to share those.
I'd say you might be better off putting in the retreat, just because you're gonna have the climate survey, you're gonna have a lot of.
Well, that was my whole point.
Yeah.
I know Jen's.
But remember, if we have board goals, that could be a long piece, as we well know, it's gonna take a while. And then you have the mid-year evaluation for the superintendent, which is not a very long, it's just a relatively short, just kind of a touch base. And I'm not sure if you had something for a budget discussion.
Well, that's kind of by tradition.
Yeah.
If that's something you all don't want to do, we did it last year and it seemed to be something that the board was interested in.
Okay, I wasn't sure, so if we want, we could, well.
Yeah, I mean, the format
How about we
is
say-
totally yours. I was
How about
told
we
that the
say-
mid-year and the budget were the two things that were historically part of that January retreat.
How about we just say we'll discuss the committee, the rest of the committees in January, and we'll decide which January meeting they'll be at, because we're going to decide right now.
Okay.
Okay, because you're right, if it's a big agenda for January, it's gonna be, I believe it's gonna be a long discussion, and it should be. Because we're restructuring committees that have existed for a while. And trying to decide going forward, and making our own decision on how we'd like to see it run.
If I could just circle back to the full board participation, was student achievement one of those as well?
In Lucy's.
On your recommendations?
Well, in Lucy's suggestions, it would go back to a regular committee,
Well,
co-chairs.
the way I looked at it is, I put down here, again, this is all part of the discussion, a full committee with scheduled meetings. I didn't say exactly when and how many, but I also said meetings can be separate or part of board meetings, so they can be both. It can be a separate meeting. I would personally like to see a chair and two co-chairs continue with being on top of this, and you and Lindsay have both been co-chairs, and to continue to keep tabs on this and come up with agendas and what you would like to see or discussed, or what you're looking for as well.
Just
so that it's
logistically,
gonna
when
work
you recommend a full board, that would mean a work session prior to a regular meeting. I just
Right.
want to get it straight in my head.
Yes,
how it's gonna go. Okay.
if it's going to be for the full board, it will be a part of a work session, yes.
I
Yeah.
think it should be at least once a month, though. I mean, for a student, some kind of report for student achievement. I mean, I wouldn't want to see it just be like a 2 times a year kind of thing.
Oh, no,
You know,
no.
You know, like
Yeah,
it
I
should be a
agree.
regularly added,
So.
even if it's just a little snippet of something.
I think it's far easier for administrators to compile reports
Exactly.
with all of our digital dashboards and things. I
Yeah.
don't think it's quite as laborious as
Right.
it used to be. I hope not, anyway.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a long thing as it has been in the past.
Yep.
Just a short
And
summary.
sometimes the reports might be shorter, because we have had some achievement committee reports, achievement reports at our board meetings. Other times it might be lengthier, where there's more involved. I like it as part of the board because it's televised, and if it's a work session, it's also still televised and recorded, so the community has an opportunity to hear, because there's so much that goes into that,
I agree.
that really needs to get out to the community, and it doesn't when you meet
Mhm.
at a separate time. So that's why I didn't put a specific piece on there. Again, just my suggestions. Okay, so I believe going forward, we need to have a motion to approve the draft of the Board of Ed meetings and the committee meetings, selected committee meetings, going forward, from now until June. I believe these go up to
December.
They go all the way to December.
Yeah, that's the shift. We're now
Okay, so
doing
the
what
board meetings go
yeah.
to December, the committee meetings
goes to December,
go to December,
except
for
we didn't plug finance in
except
past
finance.
March.
committee. So that's what you need a motion to approve this as submitted. And a second,
Second.
any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, we need to have a,
As, are you okay with that, Bob? That finance isn't scheduled out? 'Cause
Yeah.
You were, that's,
I just be cautious, that's all.
okay. So we'll have a roll call. Lucy Petrella, I vote yes.
Lindsay Dahlheimer, yes.
Jason Stone, yes. Bob Moore, yes.
Maura Carminello, yes.
I'm sorry, Linda Darcy, yes.
Jamie Rohrbach, yes.
Mariah Roy, yes. Amanda Betty, yes.
Okay, so this schedule has been approved. And we will continue the discussion on the committees sometime in January. How's that? Okay, going forward, we also have a vote to adopt policies. I didn't know if anyone had any questions. Bob, can we vote on all of these all in one vote, or should we do them separately?
The meal changing policy should be separate.
Separate because. it's
Charging
got all the
policy.
hours are up. Okay,
And then again, this is the second read of this, was last time. Basically, it's a policy that says if the child's not paying, we will only talk to the parents. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. And so that the child will still get food. So that was the change in the policy, that's state law. I recommend it.
so we need a motion to approve the changes to the meal charging policy.
Yeah, it's a series 5,000 under students, and it'll be given the number when put into the policy book.
Okay, and that's series 5,000 under students at this point.
I'll make that motion.
And a second? John? Okay, we're gonna have to roll call. Lucy Petrella, yes.
Lindsay Dahlheimer, yes.
Jason Stone, yes. Bob Moore, yes.
Maura Carminello, yes.
Linda Darcy, yes.
John Minogue, yes. Jamie Rohrbach, yes.
Mariah Roy, yes. Amanda Betty, yes.
Okay, so that passes. I think I'm gonna lump together the three non-discrimination ones. and
Actually, all,
They can all.
Do all
they're
of them?
they're all basically the same. They're all these policies on non-discrimination and Title IX, all are related to changes in definition of statute of a veteran, of harassment, of gender, and they've all been amended to put in their appropriate places in our gender or sexual orientation or harassment. And the veteran is more traumatic. It expands the definition of honorable discharge or related other discharges due to some variety of incidents that occurred during their service. So all these are basically the current policy amended by state requirements to include harassment, gender identity, and
And this is the second read on that, on these.
Yeah, and this is also the second time, and they currently go into our current budget under the same titles.
Okay, now these have specific numbers. So if you want,
I'd have to look it up.
I have it.
oh, it's not on there? It's not on your sheets that you
No.
have?
I
Oh.
know.
So
So
that was
series,
series.
4,000.
So if you want to make the motion for each of these, and if they have specific numbers to add the numbers to it, because I don't.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the changes for the policies and adopt those changes for series 4,000 personnel non-discrimination.
Series 1,000 for community board operation.
Series 5,000 for non-discrimination of students. Series 4,000 personnel policy regarding prohibition of sexual discrimination, sexual harassment in the workplace. Title IX. Series 5,000 students policy regarding Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972, prohibition of sexual discrimination, sexual harassment.
And 4,000 for personnel. And
Yeah, she said,
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
okay, so that's made by Lindsay, seconded by
second,
Bob. Any further discussion?
I just want to thank everybody for not making me read those.
Right. Okay, we'll have a vote, roll call vote. Lucy Petrella, yes.
Lindsay Dahlheimer, yes.
Jason Stone, yes. Bob Moore, yes.
More criminal, yes.
Linda Darcy, yes.
John Malone, yes.
Danny Roback, yes.
And then.
Mariah Roy, yes. Amanda Betty, yes.
I was like a tie.
Perfect. Well, everybody gets a chance to talk tonight. Think about it that way. Okay. Item 8D, a vote to amend previously approved the high school Costa Rica field trip. I guess we had a.
Deb, do you mind giving them the, you can come to the table, just cover it.
Issue.
Oh, it's on the table. Why would I not do that?
When that was approved last fall by the former principal, the teacher wrote it in. She thought that the 16th was a full day professional development. So she counted 3 days out of school. It's really 4 because it's a half day professional development. So just, so that the board was clear, because we had that discussion about the golf trip last time. It is 3.5 days. And so we just wanted you all to know that that's, it was wrong on paperwork, and we just wanted you to give us your blessing that they can still go. And since their airplane tickets have already been purchased, I sort of am hoping that, as is Miss Jerron, probably watching this at home, came in my office and she said, what? I said, it'll be fine, I'm sure. So we just wanted to be transparent and let you know that that was a mistake.
So we need a motion to correct the
So
date to read.
So I'll make a motion.
Yeah, what's the date?
The dates are the same.
The dates are the same.
It's the number of days that they'll be missing.
The number of days. I'm sorry.
Because it was 3 days, now it's actually 3.5.
Okay, so that's, sorry, made by John,
Stone.
second,
Second,
Bob. Okay, any other discussion? Right, roll call vote, Lucy Petrella, yes.
Larry, yes.
Jason Stone, yes.
Bob Moore, yes.
More criminal, yes.
Linda Darcy, yes.
John Malone, yes.
Danny Roback, yes.
Went up to
Mariah
CML.
Roy, yes. Amanda Betty, yes.
Okay, that has passed.
Deb, are you leaving? Are you gonna be leaving right now? Or are you
No,
gonna
I'll
stay?
stay.
Okay, I don't know if I can say this right now, but we're talking about a trip and I just wanted to throw it in there. I just really wanted to recognize, since you guys, all three of you are here, Craig's here, and Jen and Deb, the phenomenal senior trip that you guys put on. I don't know if this is appropriate time, but we're talking about a trip
We're
anyway.
talking about field trip.
Okay, you guys are all in the same room, so I just want to tell you, like, my oldest daughter missed out because of COVID, so this is my first experience as a parent, and the memories you guys created for these guys, I mean, I know I hear about it every year, but it was my first experience. So kudos to you guys, and thank you very much for the time and effort and energy you guys put into that.
Yeah, I want to echo that as well. My son went as well too, so it was a great time, enjoyed themselves, and we appreciate you keeping them safe as well too. So thank you very much.
the agenda, oh my God.
Yeah, it was great agenda.
That's all.
Did you guys get right after days after?
Because we just followed along.
Good morning, God bless you.
Yeah. But I don't, you guys touched like everything.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Kudos to Craig.
Thank you.
The worst part wasn't getting them up. It was when they were so tired at night, they didn't want to come down for the meeting. They want just to go to bed and Craig would tell them, nope, we have a meeting we have to talk about tomorrow. They'd be like this on the table.
Wow.
They were tired.
And the adults as well.
The adults,
I'm sure. Thank you.
That's an account.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
That's an account.
They were very well behaved. It was a very good time.
Yeah. Great. It was an honor and a privilege to be able to go with them. Yeah. Really.
Item number 9, committee reports, finance committee, 2 meetings, November 15th and one we just had before this in December 14th.
Okay, we had introductions because most of the members are new now. We reviewed the 2022-23 budget a little bit. Let people ask him questions. She's been great the entire time. Asked if anyone want any info for the budgets and stuff. They asked about the capital plan and debt service. That was the first meeting. Kim got us the information. We went over it more in depth this meeting, which was good. And we discussed how it plays into the budget and everything else. So far, everything's been good. People have been asking questions, getting more involved. So. And then we actually asked we're requesting the towns to give us information on how their budgets are looking and stuff, and if they want anything from us.
If there's any large capital needs that they're expecting. To see that earlier rather than to see it at the start of budget would be great for us.
Yeah, Bob Yamartino was on a trend where he was saying, well, since we're only allowed to budget a certain amount and hold back every year for improvements, perhaps the towns have a little more leeway and say, we know something needs to be done. Let's talk about it now so we can forecast, years down the road. So it's not all of a sudden a hit. And I think that's a great idea. Both Durham and Middlefield can be more proactive in that avenue to help out the district.
I will tell you, just having sat through negotiations, just the eye-opening understanding that both the Board of Finance chairs had as to what goes into negotiations and why you may end up with what you end up with, when you settle, it was well worth the time, well worth it. And the same thing also on the finance committee, the understanding of what goes into the budget and what some of the issues that the boards run into to be able to, or the district runs into, to be able to finance certain things and why you end up with sometimes larger expenditures or these 911 repairs, why that happens that way.
Where are we at right now? 2% max we can hold back. That's
2%, yeah.
Yeah, and it's nothing. When you consider
No kidding.
potential expenditures. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it was nice to hear tonight at finance, one of the members from finance committee actually said that she was interested in finding out how she could better explain to communities how the budget is working, and I think that advisory wise, the finance committee will give us a lot of really good information and resources on and possibly we can get that communication committee going and how we can communicate better with the community. So.
Building committee. Meeting.
We were busy.
Done.
Kim started indicated that the facility planning for the Memorial School was starting. They hired Silver Petroselli to do the facility planning, which will just give us an idea of whether it could be done or not. Not a design. The Packaged field turf, we have money for replacement, trying to decide if it's done this year or next year. Hopefully it's can be put off for another year. We need a little bit more money to finish up. It's anticipated they're going to do a test of whether or not it can sustain any more work, any more load on it. The memorial roofs are done. They need an as-built drawing. The mechanics at Memorial. There's a punch list, that may not see it through into the spring, but it's basically done as well. The pump house, for fire flows to the Strong and High School, we need a flow rate studied in order to size the pumps. When we get the size of the pump, then we can decide how big the building has to be. The building cost is probably in the $600,000 range. But we can't do that until we know how big the pumps are. The culvert, obviously, all you've driven over is done and completed and paved over. The first part of Picket Lane is also done, and that was done by the Superfund project. Excuse me. Picket Lane 2, they've tried to break it up into 3 projects. One is drainage, paving, and reclamation, and they're working with the consultant Jacobson in order to come up with this plan. They think they can save quite a bit of money by going through some of this reclamation planning, but we won't know that until I think probably February, but hopefully in time for deciding on a budget. Excuse me. Remaining cough. The field house building, one bid came in, that was followed the procedure. It was higher than our cost. It was 189,000. So going back to look at whether or not we can take off the abutments in the foundation in order to make it square, or whether or not we should do it ourselves.
Take care.
They could give me a chair to carry me out of here. So that's basically done. We can got a cost estimate of fixing the foundation's not square. In order to square it off, the building would be cheaper. And we've got an estimate of about $25,000 to square it off ourselves. So those are the things. So it's sits probably for another month before we get a final cost on that.
Yeah, the only thing to add to that is that according to Ken, we need to have, as far as the reconfiguration, as far as the schools are concerned over at Memorial there by June 30th.
Yes. That's
In order for us to meet the deadline for with the state and things of that nature. So I just want to comment that that building committee is stacked with a lot of knowledgeable people that have a lot of great ideas that are going to save this community a lot of money. So I just want to give them a shout out and kudos to really doing a good job there. They're really taking it seriously, and we truly appreciate their efforts.
I can add, I want to thank you for saying, I feel the same way about the building committee. They've been a great resource for me, for all of us. So they're really helpful. I can want to add on expand on the RFP for the field house. So we did receive that one bid that was over our budget. But also the building committee felt that did not meet our need because it wasn't the right solution, because it was just, they hadn't folded it correctly, I guess is what Howard said. So through that process, we learned information. It was a necessary process, but we learned information that it's really more going to be a specialty building that not a lot of vendors can provide. It can't be a pole barn, I guess. It needs to be a steel tube. And so the general consensus of the building committee was we should come to the board and tell you that while we weren't successful through the RFP process, we did decline that bid because it was over our budget, but also this falls under the exceptions to bidding in the specialty category, sole source specialty. So the building committee would like to get 3 quotes of the kind of building we now know we need, that foundation will support. And then not go out to bid again, just choose the best bidder out of those 3 quotes, which we believe will be significantly less than the one bid that we did receive that we rejected. So I don't need a vote. I just need to know if you disagree with that strategy. And if you do, then, you know, we can talk about it, but that's the building committee. And like John said, these are Belgian people. They, you know, I listen to them.
Yeah, they definitely
They know what they're
suggested
talking
what Kim had said, so I would agree that that's probably the best course of action moving forward.
Does anyone have an objection to that? We have an
I'd like to add
exception-
too, you know, the
exception.
building committee is doing a really stellar job. Not only is it through the efficiencies we can gain, as we know we need to. At the same time, it's going to make our educational experience for the students stronger because we'll be able to do more, perhaps, if we decide on priorities.
On the paving alone, it's a significant cost savings if it goes the way it's supposed to.
Okay, hearing no objections, I believe that's okay.
And I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about the culvert grant. So we do have the grant on the culvert that is done, and we haven't received the money yet, but because the culvert was a part of the 6.9 million bonding, that money will go back into our bonding projects, which Picket Lane paving had a small amount in that bonding, but it had some in there that we can then redirect those funds to Picket Lane bonding. If legally we can, it depends on the, you know, the board would have to say that is okay. So that's going to help ease the burden of how are we going to fund the paving of Picket Lane. And that could be $400,000. So that helps a lot. So we haven't received, I mean, we were awarded the grant, I just haven't received the money yet. So once it's closed out.
That's actually a great number.
Maybe they'll
Isn't that
figure,
great?
I
So
like that number.
maybe they'll figure a way to do the whole road with 400,000. Or pretty close.
I don't
Not
think
quite.
so. This is still
I like your
phase
thought
one,
process.
too, no. Phase 3 is the traffic calming and the safe streets and all that kind of stuff that was taken out of that initial bulk pack. And we broke it down to 3 sections.
Where this is all very helpful, as Kim is sharing, is that we know this is a priority for everyone. We also know there's going to be a lot of upward pressure on the budget because of inflation and all the things that we'll get into in 2023. And so we want to be able to do it, but do it in a way that people can support. And so that was a great observation that Kim just shared. And, you know, if the price comes down and we can, this might be really something we can get done next summer, which is what we're all hoping for.
That's nice. Sounds exciting.
It's not a promise to get it done, but it's like John is saying, we have a lot of really smart people that know this business that are helping us do this for what we think is high quality, but lower cost to the taxpayers.
Smart and frugal.
Yep.
Very frugal. Okay, item C, ACES report. Lindsay?
So the governing board met on December 8th. It's the annual holiday meeting. And they always do presentation awards. So they have a t-shirt design contest and a greeting card contest and a contest for all the different schools for ornaments. And then turned into a fundraiser. So while I talk about some of them, I'm gonna pass them out. These were the winners for the cards. On the back of each card says the student and which school of ACES they're from. Some of them, they're adorable. And each student came and presented it. They were given a gift. And they left for the day. I wasn't able to get copies of the ornaments, which were also adorable. And there were a few where the parents hadn't given permission for them to be on the cards. They were equally wonderful. The t-shirt contest this year for ACES, this was the winner. It's pretty adorable. It was great to see all the kids, and they were beyond excited to come and not only present those, but to get their little goodies and their rewards. It's a pretty neat thing. I'd like for us to eventually possibly talk about doing a fundraiser this way for the schools, and for the district, but the greeting cards are
Nice.
Good
Good
idea.
quality.
But I know at Brewster, We used to do that. The art teacher used to be in charge of that, and your own child's art would be a huge fundraiser. I don't know if anybody's here that's been here long enough like me. I think it was Square One Art, and it was a huge fundraiser because who doesn't want something from their child's artwork? And they had like mugs and bags, and I have so much stuff at my house for my 3 older girls. Like I think I bought something every year, so it's really a great fundraiser. And to do it district wide is great. Shout out to
really
the kids from the choir.
And it's fun because the students are so personally involved with it. And they're also raising the funds, necessary funds for whatever they want.
It's meaningful. And I don't.
Yeah. And the craft fair that they had this, I think it was Saturday, I went down in the evening real quick and they had a whole table full of the cards and the t-shirts and, you know, everyone was taking out, so it was pretty neat. Regarding anything else from Aces from that meeting,
Yeah.
to give you guys a quick update, they're actually selling one of their buildings on State Street. It was interesting to talk to a lot of the members of our governing board, in particular, talking to one of the districts way farther out that we don't really have a lot of contact with, but they have over 200 vacancies in their district right now. It's one of the larger districts, one of the bigger cities, but future vacancies, certified future vacancies. And it was a pretty, lengthy discussion between everybody, and to hear it just about everywhere, that retention is a problem. So it was nice to be able to report that, as a district, we do retain a lot of our teachers. But I want you guys to know that, that's really out there. Another conversation over substitutes, pretty serious in every district, and ACES is working on, like, we give incentives, and I know we talked about that before. Like that's about it. We had a special guests, past chair, Norm Hicks was there. It was great to see Norm. We hung out for a while. And yeah, that's all I have.
It's still active. He hasn't retired yet, I don't think. Next item is communications. There were a number of emails that were received especially about the social media issues. I'm not going to mention them because everyone was copied on them anyway. The only email that I received that was not copied to all the board members was from Gabriel Epstein, who sent me an email regarding an audit, a district audit interview. Is there anyone else that received any communications? Spoken to anyone?
Lucy, just the one from last month. I had brought it up at the last meeting, but you said you were going to push it to this meeting. The one from Julia about student board representatives.
Oh, yes. And I think, right, and she reported today, and you get that, you're right. And as I said before, when we're talking about committees, on the second page, there is a piece there under the restructuring of the wellbeing committee that has a spot there for us to discuss having student representation on the board.
Okay.
As well as a couple of other things, so.
In the meantime, if it's okay with you, I did reach out to CABE and I got copies of the policies for a few different school districts, RSD13, Stafford, East Hartford, Clinton, Old Saybrook, Wyndham, and Newington, about how they do their student board representatives. So I can forward that on to the rest of the board for review before we discuss it in January.
Awesome. And I also reached out to the CABE superintendents, the CABE chairs. And I also received information from a number of other districts on what they do and how they handle student representation on the board. So we have we can share all that. Yep.
That's good.
Okay.
Am I the only one that got, I think it was Mr. Darasek? I thought it was the whole board. That was the most recent. You guys did get it too. Okay. I was like, oh no, maybe I was.
Oh yeah, no, we all got it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why I put here all members. Yeah, because I went through all my emails and responded.
Okay.
I did briefing. Yes.
We did get a long letter from Michelle Cohagen about an outplacement issue. And I think it would be good for the board sometime in January to have a special executive session, discuss how that process worked. On the outplacement request and denial.
Was it, was there a response? Because that's the only thing is we all did receive these, but I never see a response to any of, like, I'd like to
No,
know
I
what
did
the
not
response
respond.
was to Mr. Darasek and also to Michelle.
I did not respond to Michelle because I believe the district is in negotiations with her and with the family, and it wasn't appropriate. And I just sent a quick response to Mark, just that we'd be looking into it. I'd be looking into it and see if there was something else. That was it. Anyone else?
We did get some issues with threats. I know they've been dealt with. But again, I think it's part of our well-being programs and issues that we deal with, that those issues, they wouldn't go into school climate, they would go into another, a venue. And I think we ought to be careful that we don't ignore those things. I personally, my niece had 2 kids at Sandy Hook, kindergarten and a 3rd grade, who both survived. And so anytime I look at any of these issues that have threats related to guns, I get very concerned, and that the board pays close attention to those things and keep it on our agendas so that we have a chance to really look at it. And, when we have safety, if we can increase the vestibule with the new safety grants, that would be great. And there's other things like that in cameras, but we ought to make sure that we pay close attention to those issues and continue to monitor carefully. I know that Doug has responded, and those issues have been dealt with, but as a board and as a community, I think we as a group need to pay close attention to all those issues.
Right, well, everyone was copied on them, which is why I didn't bring it up specifically. And in many cases, there's a lot of information that is confidential that's related to these issues, which is why it's not necessarily brought out to the public, but the board is aware. It has been made aware because you've been copied on it, so.
I also agree with Bob. Is there a potential for an executive session for the email that he had mentioned previously before the threats?
I think it's important to have maybe Doug explain legal issues with. in regards to that
But
situation.
not at this meeting, I think,
Yeah, not here.
Just an executive session.
All right.
I know we had talked about much that we've started a new way to report bullying, but is there still a well-known way? I mean, in the case that happened recently, just anybody sees something quickly and having the word get out other than on social media, which seems to be the way that everybody finds something out. Where are we covering all the bases with that, Doug?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So we focused on just having a way for kids to report bullying, or we're gonna be starting that in January on a platform. So in the case of what we just saw, a lot of kids saw, where do they report that? Other than their parents, and then the parents somehow get in touch with you, and then maybe we might hear about it.
Well, they have all the traditional ways they can report it if they will report it.
Mhm.
We had a really powerful speaker at Strong today, and some of you were there, that hopefully motivated some of our learners to think about some of these things that way. And I think that the digital platform is recognizing that some children may feel like that's the right thing to do, but feel like there's a stigma to walk into the office or possibly even tell their parents. We would like them to.
Right.
And so, the suggestion was if they can just do it digitally, they can still get the pertinent information to the administration so that they can fully investigate. But that might increase and make it better than it currently is.
So that's not something we currently have, but we're looking into.
It's gonna launch in, that was Jen's presentation.
Okay.
It's
Sorry,
gonna,
I'm ahead of
it's,
it. Okay, good. That's what that will be.
yeah, Julie actually kind of modeled it And,
Okay, good.
and,
That's not till, that's tonight or
No, it's not exclusively bullying.
not exclusively bullying. Okay,
no,
good.
no, it's to report anything.
Okay.
And there, and you know, I think that's kind of the point is
Okay,
that
perfect.
maybe bullying gets kind of
It does
front and
get-
center,
yeah.
but there are other issues as well, and the administration wants to be able to deal with those
Yeah,
things.
perfect.
Yeah.
And I can read the beginning paragraph. This form is to report incidences of bullying that have occurred at or between students of Coggin Regional High School, as well as inform administration if a student needs help or assistance. And then
Okay,
it goes
great.
on to
Mhm.
share
Is it just
directions.
Coggin, not to get ahead of our conversation?
Coggin and Strong.
Strong too,
It's
okay.
where we did it, and I
Yep,
think,
that's what I just
Leave
again,
more than that, 'cause
No, just as long as.
I think what's his name, John
John Halligan.
Halligan, you know, one of the things that this would align with what he said is that if someone has a concern about a friend and they don't feel like that friend is going to go forward, you know, depression, self-harm, his son committed suicide tragically, and that was kind of the basis that you know, and maybe that person doesn't want to walk into the office. This tool, we hope, would be a mechanism whereby that information could get to an adult who could try to intervene. Because we know that there's peer pressure and things like that, and kids don't maybe want to say the things. So,
Yeah.
It was a really powerful
I was just gonna say
presentation.
that.
Lucy and Ryan and Bob and I were there this morning. They did the 6th and the 7th grade together. And then the 8th grade separately, back to back, and his presentations were completely identical. It was amazing. But the thing that was really amazing was that all these kids, I mean, it was 57 minutes, if I can calculate correctly, and the kids were all respectful. They all sat, they listened. There was, you know, it's an emotional thing for a father to get up and talk about, you know, losing his son to suicide. And if anything, the takeaway is that he wants kids to be upstanders and not bystanders. He wants to, if you're with a kid he's a friend of yours, but he's bullying another kid, you let that kid know, don't do this.
I think that was the key piece, is not just the child who's being bullied complaining, but you as a friend of the person who is bullying to stand up somehow in a safe way for you, a comfortable way for you to stop it. You have a responsibility, because if you, as a friend of the person who is bullying, just sit back and let it happen, and you're bullying as well. You're just as responsible for it. So that was the takeaway, that's it, more or less.
And even as a parent, he said that he had wished he had not told him to, well, you know, this is just how it is, you know, it'll be all right, ignore the kid. And he felt it kind of made his son feel that he had to kind of tough it out. He was saying, you know, something's happening, it's happening to your friend, or it's happening to you, find somebody. If you don't want to go to your parents, you don't want to go to your teacher, go to a counselor, just go to anybody.
And if we have a form, a digital form, that could be another avenue to report it. Either as the person who's being bullied or the person who's watching it happen. So, you know, it goes both ways.
I was really proud of them all.
Yep. Very, very, very powerful presentation. And I just received, I don't know if all of you did, but I did forward it on to Doug. I believe I forwarded it on to Jen and a few of the other principals of Harlem. It's not the Globetrotters. I can't remember the exact name, but it's a Harlem group that actually does a whole presentation. You can either buy tickets to go, or they can come to the school around bullying. But I believe they do it as part of their basketball. I'm assuming.
Is it the Wizards? Pardon, the Wizards?
No,
I
it's
think it's
not
Magic.
Magic.
It's a Harlem.
It was,
Magic.
it's a different, yeah, it's a
Harlem.
different Harlem.
Magic Masters.
Yeah, thank you, Magic Masters, and I forward that on, and I thought that might be an interesting, another way to reach students about bullying and, you know, it was interesting how he mentioned, and I'm part of his generation, in fact, even before his generation, that bullying was different in our day because we had computers, but computers you don't carry around with you, but with social media, with the phones, you have a computer right here. And they have all kinds of ways that kids can cyberbully, which never happened when you know, when with me, with my children, my own kids, and even, well, my grandchildren are running into it. So it's got a whole different scenario now, and it's a lot easier to bully when you're anonymous than when you have to do it in front of somebody. So, you know, it's a whole thing, and everybody's dealing with that, how to try to figure out how to deal with it. But and if someone says that this is not part of our meeting, it's under communications. We are communicating, okay?
Just get ahead of
It
ourselves.
fits. I could just hear Norm say, you know, this, that, but sorry, Norm, it's on you. Okay, I'm gonna move on to public comment. Is there anyone in person who would like to speak? Julia.
Hi, my name is
Hello.
Joyce Wordsling. I'm a senior at Coggins. I just wanted to add one more thing about the student representatives, and I also wanted to say another thing. When I was at the CAVE conference, the woman who ran the student session was very into student representatives, and she actually wrote the policy for Old Saybrook, which is the district that she's a board member on, in like the year like 2000 or something, and they still have it running now. So I got her contact information, and she said, you know, if we're trying to set that up, then she's super open to helping with that and coming to talk about it and why it's important. And she, you know, gave everybody a copy of the Old Saybrook policy, and she has a lot of ideas for how to make that work. And then for the reporting form, I just wanted to say that I designed it in a way that it would particularly be broad as sort of a catch-all for any issues that students want to talk about. It doesn't even, you know, even if it's something that it may not seem important, it's designed in a way that the student can feel like it fits into what's asked there, and they feel that they can answer the questions because the questions are very broad. So that was everything I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Carl Stout, Durham. I too would like to commend, excuse me, the building committee. I think like you say, there's a great amount of talent there, and they're doing their best to try to bring the prices down on things and bring the budget down. But I also feel it's counterproductive. This field house, field storage. It's called a field storage. The size of it is much bigger than a storage building. Plus insulation is being added into it. Storage building to me doesn't need insulation. So this isn't going to be a much bigger project, is where it's headed, and it's going to add permanent fixed costs to the Board of Ed, future budgets all down the road. This thing is going to grow. We know what it's headed for. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, do you have anyone online? Has their hand up? No? Okay, hearing no one else, before we break, I'd like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a safe and healthy New Year. And we will see you all next year, except for we have a meeting next week. Okay, so a motion to adjourn. And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We don't have to do one call for that. No. Thank you, Mariah. Thank you.